"Sir, this line is for guests. Employees use the back entrance." The words landed like a slap. He stood there, calm, still, suitcase in hand. "I booked a penthouse suite under Jameson Grant." The receptionist did not even glance up. "Then, maybe go back and book it somewhere you can afford." A young couple behind him shifted uncomfortably. A man in a suit who had just walked in was greeted with a full smile. "Welcome to Oak Ridge Grand, sir. Checking in?" Grant slid his phone across the counter without a word. The reservation email glowed on the screen. The receptionist's smirk faded just slightly. She tapped on her keyboard, frowning. Then again. Her fingers froze, her face changed. A whisper escaped before she caught herself. "Oh my God." Her eyes darted to the manager's office. She stepped away, mumbling something and rushing to whisper behind the glass door. Jameson stood still, calm, watching. The manager, a balding man in his 50s with a tired face and stiff collar, stepped out slowly. He glanced at Jameson, then at the screen the receptionist had left open. He turned pale. "Mr. Grant." Now the receptionist looked up. Her voice cracked. You're him?" Jameson nodded once. "The name is on the deed, same as the reservation." You could hear a pin drop. A bellboy paused mid-step. A woman checking in looked over from the next desk, her mouth slightly open. The manager tried to recover. "Mr. Grant, I apologize. We had no idea you were—" "A guest?" Jameson cut in gently. "That is all I came here as, until I was made something else." The receptionist's hands trembled as she handed him the room key. Please let us make this right." He took the card without looking at her. "Tell me, do you treat all black men like they do not belong in their own space?" No, sir. It was a mistake, I thought." "You thought what?" His voice was quiet, but the question cut through the lobby like a blade. "That I was not good enough to stay where I built?" The silence pressed against every wall in the room. Jameson stepped back from the desk, looked around. The same walls he had personally approved during design. The marble counters, the lighting, the fragrance. Everything was his. And yet, he had just been reduced to nothing at the door. Again, a young employee nearby leaned over to whisper, "He's the owner. He owns the whole chain." The guest next to him said softly, "Man just got profiled in his own building." Jameson turned to leave, but the manager rushed to stop him. "Sir, please, let us escort you to the suite. It's the finest we have." Jameson turned his gaze to the receptionist. She had backed away from the desk, eyes full of panic, hands shaking. He said, "You have stained the welcome desk of my property." "Not with coffee, but with assumption, Mr. Grant, I swear. It was never—" He raised a hand. "What would you have done if I was not who I am? If I was just another black guest walking in to rest?" She had no answer, just tears rising. In her eyes, he looked away. "That is the problem." Then came the final line, soft, painful, deliberate. "I built this place. You just stained it." And with that, Jameson turned and walked toward the elevators. The bellboy followed with the suitcase, quiet as a shadow. Up in the penthouse, Jameson unlocked the door, stepped into the suite he had designed with every inch of comfort in mind. But comfort was not something you could buy tonight. He stood by the window, staring down at the driveway where he once unloaded linens as a nobody, where he had carried other people's luggage in silence. A knock came. Room service, a bottle of wine, an apology note, probably written by someone else. He closed the door without accepting it. Behind him, the city lights flickered. cold and distant, and yet none of it surprised him. Because this was not the first time a black man in a suit had been mistaken for the help. It just hurt a little more when it happened inside your own walls. The elevator doors closed behind him, muffling the world. Jameson leaned against the mirror-paneled wall, eyes fixed ahead, but his mind no longer here. Not in the penthouse. Not in the building with his name on every blueprint. He was back there, back to when he was 19 and sleeping in his car during winter. He had just lost his mother. No insurance, no savings, just her voice still echoing in his head. Do not let the world decide your value, baby. You write that yourself. He used to park outside a hotel and stare at the glowing windows, wondering what it felt like to sleep in a warm bed, wondering if the people inside had any idea that a young man sat shivering outside with 2 shirts and a broken dream. Then one day, he walked inside, not as a guest, as a dishwasher. Start tonight, the manager had said, handing him an apron without looking him in the eye, and he did. He scrubbed plates till his knuckles bled, woke up in his car, washed his uniform in the sink, worked again. Every night after his shift, he stayed behind and cleaned the lobby floors, not because they asked him to, but because he wanted to understand every inch of that place. He watched how guests were greeted, watched who got the warm smiles and who got the cold stares. He noticed a pattern. Black guests rarely got the front row kindness. Politeness, yes, but never warmth. He felt it every time he asked for an extra towel and got a sigh in return. Still he stayed. He started reading hotel management textbooks in the supply closet during his lunch breaks. He enrolled in night classes. At a community college, paying tuition in cash, every dollar earned from mopping floors and folding sheets. Once, a supervisor laughed. "You're wasting your time. You'll never run a place like this." Jameson had smiled. "That's all right. I'm not trying to run it. I'm trying to build better." They called him arrogant. He called it preparation. When promotion time came, they passed him over. 3 times. Said he needed more polish. The same guy who got promoted barely knew how to spell concierge. Still, Jameson did not leave. He saved and saved. A year later, he walked into a bank with a business plan in hand. They barely let him finish the first page before saying no. He went to 5 more banks, same result. But at the 6th, a young loan officer pulled him aside, whispered, "If you put this under someone else's name, you might have a shot." Jameson hated the idea, hated it with every bone in his body, but he had no choice. So he called Andre, an old friend from college who owed him a favor. Andre signed the papers. His name went on the first motel Jameson bought, a run-down 2-story with mold in the ceilings and 3 working toilets. But Jameson did not flinch. He lived in the back office, fixed plumbing by day, changed sheets by night, and ran the front desk like a general. The first month, only 2 rooms booked. He did not advertise, he upgraded. New beds, new curtains, new lights. He printed new brochures with his own hands and handed them out on sidewalks. Word spread. By month 6, they were full every weekend. By month 9, he bought the gas station next door. Then another motel. Then one more. But his name? Still missing. From all the papers, it took 5 years before he could put Jameson Grant on a deed without someone asking if he was representing the owner. And by then, he had already built an empire that no one saw coming. He did it all in silence. No press, no ribbon cuttings, just bricks and sweat and plans. One reporter once asked him, "Why don't you ever promote your name?" Jameson had smiled. "Because if I walk in with my name, they stop seeing the work. They only see the man." Years later, guests from a luxury resort in Texas complained to the chain's headquarters about how staff treated them differently based on how they looked. Jameson received that email. He did not forward it. He did not reply. He booked a room under a different name and quietly walked in to see for himself. He had done this before, many times. Walked into his own buildings unannounced. No security, no business card. Because the truth was, he trusted blueprints more than people. So when he stepped into the Oak Ridge Grand that afternoon, when the receptionist looked him in the eye and assumed the worst, he was not surprised. He was just tired. Because no matter how many floors he built, the elevator still started at the bottom for him. In that penthouse room, the silence sat heavy. Jameson opened a drawer, pulled out a photo of his mother, young, tired, with pride in her eyes and a tired smile from 3 jobs. He whispered, "I got it built, Ma." His phone buzzed, a text from his assistant. "Want me to fire her?" He stared at the screen, paused, typed, slowly, "No. Make her learn, not leave." He had learned something long ago. Power did not come from firing people. It came from changing them. But this time, he felt the cost deep in his chest, a cost he had paid too many times. Jameson stepped out of the penthouse the next morning. The hallway was quiet, but the air was different, thick with tension. He could feel it. People had started talking. He made his way down to the lobby, slowly, knowing what was coming. Not because he expected it, but because this was how people always moved after exposure. As he stepped into the marble-floored lobby, heads turned. The same receptionist from yesterday, Melissa, sat behind the desk, eyes low, hands trembling as she typed something without looking up. When she finally did, her eyes widened. She stood too quickly, knocking over her coffee. "Sir, I need to speak with you. Please, just a moment." Jameson paused. He said nothing. She stepped around the desk, heart racing, voice already breaking. "What I said yesterday, it was wrong. I judged you, I assumed. I made it personal and..." Jameson looked her directly in the eyes. Calm, unshaken. "You did not just judge me," he said quietly. "You judged the idea of me." Tears welled in her eyes. She blinked fast, trying to hold her breath steady. I'm not like that, I swear. It was just a bad day. I misunderstood." "And then..." Jameson tilted his head. "Then you decided I was less." She froze. "I've worked here 3 years," she whispered. "I've seen hundreds of people come through. I don't even know why I said what I said." Jameson leaned in slightly. "You said it," he replied, "because no one ever made you sit with what it feels like." She started crying. "I am sorry. I really am," he nodded. Noted, then turned and walked toward the elevator. But the lobby was not as quiet as it used to be. A few guests stood near the fireplace, their phones still in hand from the moment they started recording her stammering apology. Others whispered. One woman, a middle-aged white guest with a suitcase and a stiff jaw, walked up slowly. "I saw the whole thing yesterday," she said. "I didn't say anything. I'm not sure what I should have done." Jameson met her eyes. "That..." Silence. "It is louder than you think," she nodded slowly. "I'll remember that." He turned again. But before he could step into the elevator, the manager came rushing out of a side hallway, hair still damp, tie off center. Mr. Grant, please. I had no idea this happened yesterday. I would never. You hired her. Jameson's interrupted. The manager stopped. Yes, sir. But she's a good worker, always on time. This was a lapse in judgment. Jameson narrowed his gaze. It was not a lapse. It was a mirror. The manager swallowed hard. We've had some issues. Small ones, complaints now and then, but nothing serious. Nothing we couldn't handle internally. Jameson stepped closer. You mean you silenced
them? No. We managed. We responded. To who? The manager hesitated. To the guests who complained. Jameson's voice dropped. And when it was a black guest, what did you do?
The manager looked down. Silence. Jameson glanced toward the staff behind the counter. He recognized one woman, housekeeping supervisor. She looked away the second their eyes met. I've read every report filed in the last 18 months, Jameson said. You know how many involved complaints about staff behavior toward guests of color? The manager shook his head slowly. 17, Jameson said. 17, and you know how many led to disciplinary action? The manager's voice cracked. None. Jameson sighed. You want to fire her to make this go away? The manager said nothing. Jameson shook his head. You're the one getting fired. The manager's eyes widened in panic. Please, wait, I can fix this. You had a year to fix it. I have kids. Jameson paused. So did the woman last month who left crying at the front desk after being told her card looked fake. The
manager froze. I know everything that happens here. You think because I built in silence, I manage in silence too?
He turned toward Melissa. She had not moved, her face pale, shoulders shaking. I am not firing you, he said. She looked up, confused. He stepped closer. Because if I do, you'll go somewhere else. You'll say it was just a misunderstanding. You'll never learn. He pointed to the guests nearby. You embarrassed yourself in front of them, and now you get to grow in front of them too. She nodded slowly, ashamed, but listening. This week, you'll sit in every accountability session we offer. You'll meet the people you made, feel small. You'll answer questions. You'll learn how your tone is not just tone. He stepped back. I am not punishing you. I am showing you what real accountability looks like. The words hung in the air. Not sharp, not cruel, just quiet. Like truth, the manager turned away, silent, hands in fists, then slowly walked out of the building. No suitcase, no folder. Just the weight of choices. Jameson watched the door close behind him, then looked once more at the staff. Change starts here. It starts now. He turned toward the elevator. This time, no one stopped him. As the doors slid shut, he stared at his reflection once more. For a moment, it looked like his mother was there beside him. Then it was just him, still standing.
Mr. Grant, the bellhop said, almost whispering. The car is ready out front. Jameson did not move right away. He stood by the gold-framed elevator mirror, looking at himself again. Not for vanity, but for memory. Same suit, same man, but something.
Inside him felt different now. Not hardened, not angry. Clear. Purpose had sharpened his breath. He walked past the front desk. Melissa was standing a step back now, quietly helping a trainee check in a nervous-looking couple. When she looked up and met his eyes, she did not try to speak. She just nodded. Jameson returned the nod, not as forgiveness, but as confirmation. He saw her trying, that was enough for now. He continued walking, past the wide windows of the hotel, restaurant, past the marble sculpture of his late mother's hand, immortalized in stone. He passed everything he had once dreamed of building, and then he stopped. The cleaning cart was there, tucked in the corner by the hallway to the staff break room. He knew that shade of blue cloth, the smell of fresh lemon cleaner. It was her, the same woman who had treated him with respect on the first night, when no one else did. He turned the corner. She was mopping the hallway, earbuds in, lips moving to a silent song. He tapped gently on the wall. She jumped slightly startled, and then smiled when she saw him. "Mr. Grant," she said, pulling her earbuds out. "Oh, I did not see you," he smiled back. "You always work this hard," she chuckled. "Well, I do not get paid to stand around." He took a slow breath. "What is your name?" She blinked. "I told you that night, but maybe you forgot. It is Lydia." "No," he said. "I remember, I just wanted to say it again, properly." She looked confused but grateful. "You treated me with kindness when no one else would," he said. "That matters to me." She looked down, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I just did what was right." He nodded. "Most people do what is easy." She shrugged. "My grandmother used to say, the way you treat someone when you think they are no one is exactly who you are." Jameson looked away for a moment, fighting something tight in his throat. Then he turned back. "How would you feel about supervising this entire floor?" Lydia blinked, startled. "Me?" "Yes. I want you to lead a new mentorship program for frontline staff."
Not just how to clean, but how to carry dignity into every room. Her voice cracked slightly. "Sir, I am not trained for that. You are already doing it." She stared at him, and then tears filled her eyes. "I do not know."
"What to say? You already said enough the night you looked me in the eye like a human being." Lydia took a deep breath and nodded slowly. "Then, yes. I would be honored." Jameson smiled. He turned, walked away again, and this time, something felt lighter. He stepped into the grand lobby one last time. It was fuller now. Guests mingled, staff worked quietly. Yet somehow there was a hum in the air, as if people were paying attention without being told to. Jameson paused at the edge of the red carpet. He heard a voice, small, clear, and bright. "Hey!"
"Are you a billionaire?" He turned. A boy, maybe 7, stood next to the velvet couch near the fireplace. Big eyes. Tightly held suitcase handle. His mother quickly shushed him. "I am sorry," she whispered. "He's just curious." Jameson
held up his hand gently, then crouched down. "No," he said. "I am someone who never stopped believing he could be more." The boy tilted his head. "That's like almost a superhero," Jameson smiled. "Something like that." Then, without fanfare, he turned and walked to the front entrance. The doorman, who had ignored him on day 1, opened the door wide now. Stiff posture, head bowed. Jameson nodded once. Outside, the car was ready. Engine soft, doors open as he stepped out. One of the guests on the second-floor balcony lifted their phone quietly, catching the scene from above. No words, just movement. Staff near the windows stood silently. Some had their hands clasped, some just watched. No cheers.
No noise. Only presence. Jameson got in the car. The door closed, but before it pulled away, he looked out the tinted window one last time. Not to see them, but to remember who he had once been. The boy who had been asked to wait in the lobby while
others were seated. The teen who was told the kitchen was full when he tried to apply for a busboy job. The man who was told his card needed verification, while others checked in without a blink. Now he owned the ground they stood on. But ownership was never the victory. Dignity was. The car pulled off. Back in the lobby, Melissa sat quietly at her desk, staring ahead. A small guest book sat near the entrance, something decorative, once used, for notes or comments by VIP guests. She had never noticed it before. Now she opened it. On the last page, a note had been written, in neat, curved handwriting. It read, "Respect is not something you give based on appearance. It is something you owe until someone proves unworthy of it." She closed the book, slowly, then stood up. This time she stood taller. Not from pride, from change.